Just found out my boyfriend got another girl pregnant, and you know what? I don't care. Sounds like he's gonna be a dad. I'm just happy it ain't me he got pregnant, haha. Good luck to his baby mama though, she's gonna need it. He's upset that I'm happy about it. Told him congrats on his new family and to get out of my apartment. Fuck his feelings. Gonna go have fun getting drunk at the beach tomorrow. Consider yourself lucky you found out who he really was now instead of 20 years of marriage and 3 kids later. You dodged a bullet. Enjoy those drinks. We were talking about having kids at some point in the late future too. Now I see who he truly is and I'm not tied to him. Truly blessed.
I'm going to end my 10-year relationship because my husband is more devoted to winning against me than caring about me. The first 3 years were amazeballs. We did fun things together, we traveled, we had shared interests, we were loving to each other. In the last 7 years, his true personality has come out. He criticizes any thought I have. I don't like some food? I'm wrong. I like a sappy TV show? I'm wrong. It doesn't matter what it is, he will fight and fight over the dumbest things only for the satisfaction of winning. Most of those wins are just me giving up because I can't believe that where a dish should go in the dishwasher needs a 15-minute speech about how right he is about dish placement. We're in counseling now, and every appointment is his efforts to prove me wrong about something and never, ever about him trying to apply anything that the counselor has tried to teach us. I'm exhausted and I give up. 10 years of telling me I am worthless? Okay, you win. I will remove my worthless self from your life. And then I will finally breathe again.
My child has broken me. Sorry for the long post, first time posting, and on mobile. I met LS father M when I was 20 and he was 19. I won't get into detail, but it was an insanely abusive relationship. I know now he was a narcissist. There was no contact, no child support, and no family, so I struggled to raise my daughter by myself. When she was 7 I met my current husband A. All aspects of our little family were great. She loved A, they did everything together, he treated her like his own, he was the dad she always wanted. We had 2 kids a few years later, W and Z, and L was excited to have siblings. Things were great, until L's 12th birthday when she told me the only thing she wanted for her birthday was to meet M. I reached out to him assuming that I'd never hear back, but to my surprise his GF responded and said they'd love to get to know L. That in itself should have been a red flag and I should have just told her that I couldn't get in contact, but I felt like she deserved to meet him and form her own opinion. We met at a park a week later. M told her he hated kids and never wanted any and that she was a huge mistake. I wanted to completely cut him off at that point, but she wanted to keep seeing him. So, we set up a bi-weekly day where M and his GF would come to our house and spend time with L. However, 2 months in L decided that she wanted M around more, but that A needed to go so that M, L, and myself could be a family. L's solution, to tell the school that A SA her. Of course, Child Protective Services shows up and A was arrested, and because I defended my husband CPS took my children from me and placed them in foster care. I went broke fighting with everything I had to prove I was a fit parent, and 9 months in when L realized that M was not gonna save her from foster care she decided to tell CPS she was lying and my kids all came home to me. It was almost another year before A was allowed to come back to the house, as we had to do intensive family therapy. In all that, we had lost our house and ended up in a 2BR trailer, and with 5 people is not ideal, but we made do. After everything M kept his distance, but was still texting L regularly. M would only see L maybe once every 3 to 4 months or so. For the next couple years everything was fine, except randomly CPS would show up, usually when L wasn't getting her way, but they would leave when they saw nothing was actually wrong. Until recently, L is struggling in school and told me in April that she wanted to drop out. I told her there was no way I was going to allow that. She doesn't bring it up again. I thought we were good. But towards the end of school L tells me she wants to spend the summer with M. I was hesitant. But, the last Friday of school here comes CPS. They need to talk to me about LS abuse and as abuse. I was in shock. So I agreed to let L spend the summer with M and CPS magically disappears from my life. L proceeds to not only ignore me all summer but turn the only family I have against me. She has been telling everyone about how abusive I and A are and she's so glad to be free now. I found out via L's BFF that apparently M told L that if she lived with him full-time she could drop out of school and start her actual life. So about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from the school that seemed out of the blue saying that I needed to sign off on my child being unenrolled. I called M and L to figure out what was going on, and was basically met with I either do this or CPS will be back to my house, which honestly every time they show up, I have a panic attack, because it's a trauma response at this point. Elle has now told me she has no interest in ever coming back home but that she still expects me to buy her a car for her 17th birthday and pick her up every week so that she can see her siblings. M lives an hour plus away. A says I need to just let her go, he loves her but it's not worth the constant battle and trauma they're causing me, and of course he's concerned about the repercussions of me fighting it. I don't want this affecting my younger two, thankfully they were too young to remember it the first time. Today, M called me to ask how I was, which I know is a load of shit. He seems all too happy, almost 17 years later, continuing the abuse. He knows my kids are my everything and he's turned my daughter against me and both of them use CPS as a weapon. L also FaceTimed W and Z and told them I kicked her out because I don't love her anymore. I don't want to just let my daughter go but at the same time I can't keep enduring this emotional trauma. I truly believe Elle has BPD, but because of her age they won't diagnose her, but she has all the signs of it and family history. I also haven't even begun to explain all of it, there's just too many things, but the things she has done to my family have completely broken me. Sad, depressed, don't even begin to explain the emotions I feel, but it's not good. I love her and want to help her. If you actually read this far, thank you. I've been having panic attacks and crying for days and I just really needed to vent and I don't feel like I can talk to anyone about this.
Anon, the long-distance lover. I met my first love at 11 years old when I was living in the Philippines. We got together at 12, but then broke up when my family moved to Ireland. At 15, we wrote letters to each other and got back together again and stayed together for the next 5 years. Not a happy ending, though. He ended up cheating on me. I also have to add that I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend because my parents were very strict, so it was a lot of sneaking around and asking my cousins for help so we could meet up. Danielle, the check yes or no. My first love was a boy named John in elementary school. I thought he was the cutest boy in all of the 5th grade. I would try to play with him through recess and talk to him in class, but he just wouldn't give me the time of the day. One day, I was brave enough to write him a letter, literally a Dear John letter. I asked one of his friends if they could give it to him and they did. I remember standing on the other side of the playground, waiting for him to read the letter, and I watched him take the letter and throw it in the garbage. I was devastated. My little 11-year-old heart was broken and I vowed to never speak or look at him ever again. Roughly 10 years later, a group of us contacted each other on Facebook and decided to meet up for a reunion. I saw John again for the first time after nearly a decade and we made up for lost time, catching up with each other and what we had been up to after high school. We dated briefly after that but it didn't work out. We were both in different places mentally. Although we are both parents now and just Facebook friends, I still consider him my first love and my first heartbreak. Megan, the brace-locking romance. My first love was this boy Josh who dated all my friends. It was a very Pen 15 situation. Finally, it was my turn to be his girlfriend. So, one night when my father was sleeping, we snuck out to the roof of my apartment building and kissed. It was my first kiss. Of course, being that we were both 13 years old, when we kissed our braces locked and we couldn't separate ourselves from each other. We were stuck together. By the time we separated, my dad and the super busted us on the rooftop. I was grounded for a week, but still snuck phone calls to my first love in the bathroom at night and sat with him at lunch until he dated someone else. I knew because he sent her a note in homeroom. Young love is hard. Lisa the short king, my first love, was named Joey, and he lived around the corner from me. We grew up together and we always had a mutual flirtation. When we started middle school, he asked me out on a date. Finally. I had a growth spurt really early on, and by the time I was 13, I was really tall. He hadn't had his yet, and was 4 inches shorter than me. But that didn't matter to me. When we went out on our first date, the usher made me buy an adult movie ticket for myself and a child ticket for him. Now, the reason why they made me buy the ticket is because they thought that I was his mother or older sibling because I was so much taller than him. Anyway, I was totally humiliated because it ruined the vibe. But that didn't stop us from dating for the next 2 years. Alicia the spoiled salad love, I had a date with my crush in junior high school. We were going to hang out at the local arcade. Before I went, I was eating dinner with my family and I shook a container of salad dressing and the whole thing exploded all over my hair and my outfit. I tried to shower and change my clothes, but I still smelled like Italian salad dressing. The whole time we were out, he was asking me if I smelled what he was smelling. I said no. Needless to say, we never went out again because I smelled like a salad on our first date. Jess.
A brief romance one of those days, when it rains unceasingly and I have to hurry up in the subway to catch the bus to go to my workplace. My hair looked disheveled as I tried to pull up the hood of my raincoat over my head. Water dripped from my hair. Suddenly my phone rang. I looked a bit alarmed as I was expecting some colleague of mine who would call me to adjust her classes. Thankfully it was not one of them. It was my cousin calling me up. Her name was Tina, as my siblings and I lovingly called her. She was all of 26, tall, dark with a warm smile and sensitive eyes which looked eternally blissful. All my siblings and I were married. We had arranged marriages and were living comfortably, so now it was her turn to get married. She was working as a receptionist in a hotel located near the airport. Didibhai, I have married, so who is the lucky guy? His name is Krishna. He is a driver by profession. He drives his uncle's car, who happens to be my boss. Her ecstatic voice made me shudder. I could no longer keep track of what she was uttering. A driver by profession, my cousin had committed a blunder. What more could I say when there were so many young men with lucrative pay packages who were interested in her? She had chosen a taxi driver over them. So, where are you staying? In my in-laws' place. Take care, I ended abruptly. There were pangs of despair pricking in my heart. My cousin was a girl having a lavish taste. She wore jeans which cost 2,000 rupees. My uncle happened to be a LIC agent, who had spent all his money on his dear daughter's education and upbringing. He was a man of strict principles. Other than that, he took special pride in the fact that he was a Brahmin. I really did not know how he would be able to tolerate his daughter's discreet behavior. The incident, or accident as he would term it, would ruin him. 2 hours later, after reaching my workplace, I called my aunt. She was crying over her daughter's betrayal. Krishna had always visited the household as a friend. Never had my aunt suspected anything existing between them other than friendship. She would be doubly accused by her husband now. First, for trusting her daughter unquestioningly. Next, for hiding the affair from her husband. My uncle would never understand her wife's naivete. A squalor would perpetuate now, a big fight would break up in the house. My thoughts jammed in, I worried about my cousin's future. The day went on as usual. Although melancholic, I trudged my way to most of my classes with my chalk and register in hand. I shouted hoarsely like a professor in engineering college is supposed to do. I later came out and sighed, if only my cousin had married an engineer. I spent 3 or 4 days quietly without talking with anyone. My aunt had lost her mother when she was 1 year old. Probably she deserved better in life, I thought, rather than seeing her daughter getting married to a low-caste taxi driver. I am a typically convent-educated person, so my schooling had taught me restraint rather than getting involved in fits of passion. I supported my aunt over my cousin. Autumn leaves, I sarcastically meditated on her sudden marriage to this boy. 2 since Tina's marriage, 1 week had passed now. I had tried to hold all my premonitions regarding their marriage. My uncle was an angry and emotionally devastated man. Tina knew her marriage would not be accepted easily by her family. She had married in a Kali temple and moved to her in-laws' place. They were businessmen who owned 2 shops and a 2-storied house. Tina had been welcomed to the house by her mother-in-law, but her father-in-law was adamant. He was of opinion that Krishna had married without consent, so he should try to provide for his wife instead of depending upon them. They had thus no option other than moving to my uncle's place. Krishna's uncle had removed both of them from their job where they had previously worked. They both were now looking for a job. The young couple's struggle had begun together. With whatever little savings they had accumulated, they had rented a small house. They came every day for their meal to my aunt's place. Meanwhile, my uncle shouted at both of them. He blamed both of them as irrational. He even tried to convince his daughter to leave Krishna. But Tina remained firm and unmoved. She said she loved Krishna and come what may they would stick together. After some weeks, the matter had settled down, I thought. I hardly found the time to visit them. My mind had moved from a state of fear to stage of gentle reconciliation. We were hoping for things to work out for themselves. One day, while I was fast asleep, my phone started ringing. As I picked up the phone, my mother's voice cried, "Tina has committed suicide. Your aunt is ill. She has been rushed to the hospital." I was shocked and petrified. On that fatal day, my uncle had scolded her and told her to stop eating at their place. She was angry and felt insulted and had walked out grudgingly. Nobody had followed her. She had slipped quietly into the house, taken a cord, fastened it to the fan, and hanged herself. Her husband had found it 15 minutes late. She was already dead by that time. I do not know what drove her to death. Was it love or reality that kept weighing on her soul? I knew no answer. I only know what happens when we fail to empathize. We end up losing our loved ones. Once again, it was raining today, and as I was getting drenched, I just hoped it washed away my tears and cleansed my heart.